The UNSC, or the United Nations Security Council, is one of the six principal organs of the United Nations, tasked with maintaining international peace and security. It has the authority to establish peacekeeping operations, impose sanctions, and authorize the use of force to address conflicts. The Council consists of 15 members, 5 permanent members, and 10 non-permanent members elected for 2-year terms. The P5 members, or the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, contains United States, the United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China, hold a unique role due to their veto power, which allows any one of them to block substantive resolutions. This reflects their influence as major powers since the UN's establishment in 1945. The P5 are expected to lead in resolving global security challenges and play a key role in shaping international norms. Differing interests often influence Council decisions. What is the purpose of UNSC? It is to maintain international peace and security as outlined in the UN Charter. It is responsible for addressing conflicts, authorizing peacekeeping operations, imposing sanctions, and approving military actions to restore stability in the whole world. With the UNSC influence, the UNSC's decisions carry binding authority for all UN member states, making it a central body in global governance. The historical origins of the 5 permanent members of the UNSC, which is United States, United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China, stem from the aftermath of World War II. These nations were recognized as the major victors and dominant powers at the time. Their veto power has been a critical tool in advancing their national interests and influencing global diplomacy, often enabling or impeding collective action in addressing crises. For example, during the Cold War, the veto reflected the ideological divides between the US and the Soviet Union, contributing to a paralyzed Council on many issues. In recent years, disagreements among the P5 members have continued to affect responses to conflicts like those in Syria and Ukraine. This power allows any one of the P5 to block the adoption of substantive resolutions, regardless of the level of international support they receive.
The United Nations, a symbol of international cooperation and diplomacy, witnessed a significant shift in 1971. On October 25th, the adoption of Resolution 2758 altered the global political landscape. This resolution recognized the People's Republic of China, or PRC, as the sole legitimate representative of China in the United Nations. It also led to the expulsion of the Republic of China's representative, marking a pivotal transition. The resolution granted the PRC a permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council, cementing its role as a key player in global diplomacy. However, the resolution left Taiwan's status undefined, creating ambiguity that persists to this day. This unresolved issue continues to influence cross-strait relations and international politics. Meanwhile, Britain and France, two of the other permanent members of the Security Council, wielded their influence during the era of decolonization. Through tactics such as ethnic division and indirect rule, they sought to maintain control over their former colonies. This approach left a legacy of political instability and ethnic tensions, especially in regions like Africa and Asia. Furthermore, Britain and France often leveraged their veto power at the United Nations to safeguard their national interests, shaping the geopolitical dynamics of the post-colonial world.
In the 21st century, the veto continues to shape global events, often stalling action during humanitarian crises. The Syrian civil war, ongoing since 2011, highlights this challenge. Russia, a steadfast ally of the Assad regime, has wielded its veto at least 17 times to block resolutions seeking sanctions or interventions. Similarly, the United States has used its veto over 50 times since 1972 to shield Israel from resolutions, including those addressing the 2014 Gaza conflict. These actions underscore how the veto often prioritizes national interests over collective global responsibilities. The veto power is also a tool of geopolitics. For Russia, vetoes on Syria have fortified its position in the Middle East, while for the United States, consistent support for Israel reflects a strategic alliance rooted in shared political and military interests. But as the world evolves, so too do calls for reform. Emerging powers such as India, Germany, Japan, and Brazil have long sought permanent seats on the Security Council, arguing that the current structure no longer reflects the realities of global influence. The legacy of the veto power is both a reflection of its time and a challenge for the future. As the world confronts interconnected crises, from climate change to armed conflict, the question remains, can the Security Council adapt to meet the demands of a changing global order?
First, appreciating the historical context of power dynamics, the veto power in UNSC were rooted in the aftermath of World War II. They were granted domination's veto power because of their status as a leading power after World War II. After that, during the Cold War, ideological divides between the United States and Soviet Union has led to frequent use of veto. These issues paralyzing UNSC on many actions. However, this privilege intended to ensure this most powerful nation stayed committed to the UN system and prevent they to act unilaterally. But the veto was never intended to create a fair system, but to secure great power cooperation. This foundational imbalance continues to shape the UNSC gridlocks today. Future generations must recognize the importance of balancing power with responsibility to prevent unilateral actions and maintain international cooperation.
As we reflect on the legacy of veto power within the United Nations Security Council, we recognize its dual nature, a tool of influence and a source of contention. While the veto has safeguarded the interests of the P5 and ensured their commitment to the UN system, it has also stalled progress on critical global crises, leaving humanitarian needs unmet and perpetuating power imbalances. Today, the world stands at a crossroads. The challenges we face, climate change, conflict resolution, and global inequality, demand a system that is more inclusive, equitable, and effective. The future of global peace depends on reforming outdated structures while strengthening cooperation and shared responsibility. Leadership must rise above national interests to create a better, more united world. The veto power is a reminder of our history and a challenge for our future. Together, we must advocate for a system that transcends rivalries and builds lasting peace for generations to come.